Okay, in this video I'm going to show you how to change a rod on a engine. This obviously will apply to any size engine. In this particular example, this is a max power RP9 engine, and basically I've left the clutch flywheel on the engine, and I'll show you the reason why I leave the clutch flywheel on the engine. So first things first is I always loosen the plug on the engine, and I'll explain a bit later on why. So it doesn't need to be completely loose, it just needs to be loose enough as such. That one there was quite tight. Once you've loosened the engine, it's a matter of taking off the 4 screws off the engine head. Now make sure you keep note of what direction the head is, because the fins are actually a little bit different on some engines. So if you were to put it back the wrong way, it actually could affect the temperature and the cooling of the engine. So just make note of what the direction is of the engine. Some engines use Allen keys, like the OS engines. Max Power uses standard flat screws. So undo the 4 screws on the... Okay, now that you've done the 4 screws, engine comes off. We can put that aside for now. Next is to take off the button on the engine. That usually comes off by hand. Now this is a good time to actually inspect the engine to see how the engine was running. Now you can see, I'm not sure how close you can see on this, but you can see there's quite a lot of black caster on this engine. There's no pitting. So this engine was running extremely well. Just keep note also there could be some shims on the engine which might be stuck here. So if the shims are stuck, they obviously go back onto the button. Next we take off the back plate screws. So there's 4 screws there which come off. And okay, now that the screws are off, back plate comes off. Be very careful of the position of where the rod is. The rod should be sitting middle to top when the back plate comes off. So again, you can see there, this particular back plate's got a lot of oil on it, which is good. A good sign that the engine's been running really well. Okay, the reason why now I leave the flywheel on the engine is because it gives you some leverage to actually pull the actual rod out of the engine. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to insert a cable tie in through the exhaust port and out through the top of the liner as such. Now with using the flywheel on the engine, we're going to turn it over a little bit until we see the liner pop out like that. Doesn't need to come out too much, just enough to get some soft pliers onto it. Pull the cable tie out, and very carefully using some soft pliers, we're going to pull out the liner as such. Now that the liner's out, you should be able to pull the rest of it out by hand. That's out. And then basically all that's left now is to pull the rod out, and usually just a prick tool or a tool similar to this, we just slide it straight out. So there's the rod now. So looking at this particular engine, extremely well run, I think, in my opinion. It's got a lot of caster burning and oil burning on it. Just give it a wipe here. And you can see the engine itself, no markings, no pitting, nice and black. So really well run engine. Okay. Next we're going to pull the pin out of the engine. Now to do this, first of all, you need to make sure that you know what direction the rod's actually coming out of. So all the rods you see in the market these days will have some form of oil channel. That oil channel is usually on the intake side, not the exhaust side. So that's the first thing you need to note. And then the second thing you need to note also is the opening of the pin. So I've seen some engines have the opening, or most engines have the opening on the exhaust side like this one, but occasionally you'll get some that have the opening on the intake side. There's some arguments as to what's better, what works, and whatever else. My opinion is run it the way the engines basically come to you. So 9 times out of 10 they come like this. and that's the way. So you got to make sure when we reinsert the pin, we reinsert it exactly the same way. Okay, now that taking the top clip out of the piston pin, it's just a matter of grabbing the driver and pushing the pin on the other side straight out as such. This one's a little bit tight. We'll just grab some pliers and get that out. So that there now is your rod and your pin pulled out. Now I always replace the pin along with the rod. It's a cheap item, and I think it's a good insurance to swap both. So basically I'm just using a max powered extra strong rod and a max power pin as well. And I'm going to show you guys now how I actually insert these two items. So we'll move these ones out of the way, the used ones. And the first one up is the brand new rod. And second one is the brand new pin that comes out. And then also a new clip as well to replace the clip that we lost. Alright, so this is a piston pin clip tool from T-Works. This saves you a lot of time in reinserting the clip into the actual rod. So I'm going to show you how I basically use this. So first things first is we remembered what side the pin actually was came out of the engine. So the opening of the hole came out on the exhaust side. So we're going to insert that in as such. Now we're only going to insert it a little bit in there so we can get the brand new rod in. Brand new rod goes in as such, line it all up, and then push the new pin in, and basically just using again a 2mm driver, push it in all the way so it hits the back of the clip, the one that we didn't remove. So that pin's in now all the way. Now what we're using this tool here, it's probably a good idea to actually leave the pin out a couple of mil, and the reason why you do that is to line it up with the actual hole on the tool. So what we'll do now is we'll open up the tool as such, we'll insert it, and because I've still got the pin a little bit out, it kind of lines itself up and slots into that hole. Tighten this up. You can now push the pin back all the way until it sits against the other clip, and then just give this one more tighten. So now we've got the pin lined up, ready to go. The rod's ready to go. All we need to do now is put the clip in. So I'll just zoom in a little bit. Now the clip goes in, it's a bit of a giveaway on the actual tool itself. The clip goes in a particular direction. So I do it with the kind of hard. It's kind of the G facing down to its right. I might just use some pliers here. And we insert it into the little channel. You see there, and I won't close it just yet. So you can see how I've inserted the clip just before where the channel is. Once I've done that, what you're going to do is you're going to close the clip. I'll get it into camera. You're going to close it down, and you'll see the clip itself start to basically bend itself into that hole. And then giving this a push, and then you'll feel the clip go down and lock into place. Pull this out. And there we have it. Now it's a good idea to, if you've got a magnifying glass, I've got something like this, it's a good idea to have a close look, and I can't do this on the camera, to make sure the clip has fully inserted into its correct position. What I occasionally do is I might actually just use a little pick tool again just to make sure it's all been inserted, which it has been. So that is how I basically change the rod on an engine.